Okay. I can see you. I can hear Elijah, but I can only see you.
Okay. Well, what's important is what the screen is. What the screen is actually recording. So.
Okay.
Big shout out to John Hodges. Anything Outdoors. That's his channel, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that. You were there 2 weeks. Actually, last week.
It was last weekend. Yeah, I drove down. He lives there close to Antlers. Actually, not too far from where Mark, from Livewire, where his place is. But I drove down there and met with him last Saturday morning, and we drove up to another area in the Kiamichi Mountains that he and his wife frequent quite a bit, and we camped overnight there.
So what happened?
Sorry?
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah, you said you got some activity on the parabolic microphone, and he tried to take some audio from his phone. Did anything come of that?
Yeah, you can hear something moving. Something was moving in the brush across the river from us. You couldn't hear it with just your ear, but through the parabolic microphone you could. I mean, it's not definitive what it could have been. We did hear a couple of tree knocks from across the river, but we didn't see anything.
Yeah, I saw one of his videos. He posted that he could see a face in the trees below him. I couldn't figure it out because everything was moving everywhere.
That wasn't from this tree.
Right, that was from a different occasion.
That was from a different occasion. But it was just down the road from where we were at, he said.
Wow. I seen Mark was on Livewire channel last night, and he had a photograph that I never saw before. Did you watch that on Bigfoot Odyssey?
I watched part of it. Yeah, I didn't get to the photograph you're talking about, so I must have missed it.
Yeah, there was one where this face is peeking out from around the side of a fence post, and it looks like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It had this white face and like crazy black hair on top. It was like, oh my God. And he said that was when his wife was like, we're out of here. Something to the words to that effect. And I'm like, I don't blame her. That was so freaky looking.
Hey, that could have been what was standing outside of your tent a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, Jesus.
When you were down here.
Yeah. That's why, that's why I freaked out. And yeah, I mean, I've told the story 100 times, but it never gets old. In my head, it never gets old. Sometimes you wake up at 3:30 in the morning and you've got that like weird feeling. Do you ever have that when you just wake up in the middle of the night and you've got anxiety or something about like, an interview the next day or like bills you've got to pay or anything in your life? It's magnified at 3:30 in the morning. For some reason.
Something about that. Something about that, because if you have anxiety about anything, it seems like you wake up around 3 o'clock or so. I don't know. There's some psychological.
Yeah, and they always say in the horror movies, well, it was always in that movie, The Haunting of Emily Rose. It was all 3 o'clock was like the devil's hour. It was the opposite of whatever. And 3 o'clock was when the demons came out, and they made a big point of that in the show. But so maybe that's always in the back of my head. But I think it was 3 something. But I remember it happened, and I didn't look at my phone until maybe I got into the truck or when you woke up. But it was 3:29. So I don't know how long I was.
I didn't even look at my watch after you went and got in the truck. I just went back to sleep.
Yeah.
But, I look at it like this, Cornell. Whatever. When it came up to your tent, it obviously didn't have any ill intent in mind, or it could have done some damage, obviously. And it didn't do anything. Just stood there. So I don't think it intended any ill will toward us.
Oh, I know.
Perhaps curious at us, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a ghost. And when people see ghosts and stuff, not that I really believe in ghosts, but if you see an apparition in your living room, it's still going to scare the shit out of you, even though it can't really do anything. You know, that kind of way.
Okay. Speaking of ghosts, there is a little girl that walked behind you. That was real, right?
That was Kira. Yeah.
Okay.
She's going. She's going to the bathroom to get juice, or not the bathroom, the fridge. Right, honey? Yeah, she's here with me tonight. Yeah, but that was. I'm already planning the next trip in my head. You know, I can't wait. That whole day was weird. I'll never forget that. That when we walked out of the
Well, I'll tell you
bottoms.
what, if you come down in the summertime like you're talking about doing, you're not going to recognize that place. The leaves will be in full bloom, obviously, and I mean you can't see very far inside the forest in the summer.
Yeah, it's kind of the same up here.
Yeah.
Huh. So are you going to come down with us again, Elijah?
Yeah, I figure so. I mean,
Yeah,
if
he
we're all
has
going to be
to
back
now.
around, might as well, right?
You know, just so you know, you've got David Wilbanks under your name as well. His name's actually Elijah. That's Dave's son, the guy
Well,
on the bottom.
his middle name is Elijah. We just call him Elijah. His name's David Elijah Wilbanks,
Yeah.
but we called him Elijah all his life.
Yeah, my name's actually Joseph Cornell, but they just call me Cornell. Yeah, because my dad's called Joseph, and the family didn't like my dad though, so they called me Cornell.
For me, it was just whenever I was getting yelled at, it was easier to differentiate between which David was being yelled at.
So,
just call me Elijah.
When do you plan on going down there again, Dave?
Oh, well, we're getting a lot of rain down here now. So if I go down there right now, I could get to the first campsite that we're at, but I would not be able to access that farthest one that we went into. And
really?
next time I go, it'll probably be by myself, and I want to be able to get to that last campsite we were at in camp. So as soon as it dries up, I'm planning on making another trip down there.
You got to get into a tent though. That's a magic formula.
Yeah, well, I tell you, like last weekend when me and John Hodges went, we were on the Little River, is where it was at. But that actually, we wasn't too far from probably Honubby as far as the crow flies. You know, we were further east like that. But yeah, we slept out on cots just out by the fire as we did. But it's pretty remote place too. It's not as far off of the main road as what we were, you know, but it's pretty out there.
And nothing. You didn't put any recorders out or anything.
No. Now John picked up, and on the video that I took, what he did is he put his phone up to one of the earphones on that parabolic microphone and recorded. And it actually picked it up, recorded the footsteps we were hearing across the river through that parabolic microphone on it. And on my footage that I captured there as well, I recorded some of that from his phone onto my GoPro, and it actually picked up. I mean, you can't tell what it is. You can tell it's definitely something moving in the brush over there.
Yeah, it's funny because I always heard about, like, people talk about, like, you can tell if it walks on 4 legs or 2 legs. And I was always kind of confused by that. I'm like, I don't really know what that means. I mean, like, because, you know, something takes one step at a time anyway. How can they tell what walks on 2 legs and 4 legs? And now, after what happened in Oklahoma, I know what 2 legs sound like when you're really intently listening. Right. You can tell what 2 legs are, you know, you can tell when something's walking like a man, no matter how heavy or how slow it is. You can still hear like 2 feet. It's not like 1, 2, and then 3, 4. It's like you can really hear the 1, 2. And
yeah, especially if it's very close to you, like that was. Now, if it's further in the distance, it's a little trickier to tell. Like while me and John were hearing, it sounded like it was bipedal coming from across the river, but I can't, you know, be definitive about it. But anyway, when he gets, I'm sure he'll post the audio that he recorded, which would be better than what mine was. I've got to get a recorder like you got. That was just amazing the way that thing picked up.
Oh yeah.
But if John posts on his YouTube channel, John Hodges, anything outdoors, post that audio, I'm sure his will be better because it's, the original recording there.
Yeah, I remember that night that we went up we were walking along the trail, and then we kind of like did a D shape. And we went up and we heard all those noises. Somebody said it was a raccoon, somebody said it was hogs, but I remember it getting really intense the closer we got to it.
Yeah, it was. If it had just come from the one area, I would say it was probably a smaller animal, but it was coming from two different directions. So that's the only thing kind of threw me. And that may well have been, a raccoon or something we were hearing. But now the whoops that we were hearing, that's definitely not a raccoon. Wasn't a barn owl, wasn't a horned owl, wasn't a screech owl, wasn't any of the owls that I'm familiar with. It was a whoop. We heard that more than once, and your recording picked it up very loud.
That was nuts.
And the tree knocks, that had to be something with opposable thumbs smacking a branch up against a tree somewhere. And then whatever was clacking the rocks together, that's the first time I've ever heard that. But down toward the creek, it sounded like something had picked up a couple of rocks and clacking them together.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
So
and that one whoop, I'm like, Elijah, was that you? And he was like, no. But then when I listened to it again, I'm like, no, there's no way that Elijah could have made that crisp and clear of a whoop that, we're all familiar with. That was perfect.
Yeah. Just the volume.
I think the only one that tried to whoop was you, and you had another word in front of the one you did.
Yeah. Yeah, the X-rated version. Yeah. But yeah, that audio, when I listened to it the next day, and I still don't understand why my battery compartment it looked like it had been tampered with. I mean, it looked like someone was trying to pry it off and didn't know how to slide it. They were trying to pry it off instead, which is weird.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if it had been a Sasquatch, though, I think it would have just carried it off.
Or just bashed it against a tree.
Yeah. Stepped on it or something. Ate it.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was...
So, yeah, I mean, having Elijah along was a great help. Him being able to help with the recording and stuff at night, especially, that was a huge help there.
I mean, that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. Is it's less like, for me, it's less about the going out looking for Bigfoot and more about the just going out and camping. Like that's the part I really enjoy. So yeah, if I can just go hang out with you guys and also get to video and maybe see something cool, that's pretty good deal to me.
Well, I hooked up with a guy from Connecticut. Mike Reynolds is his name, and he has he has a YouTube channel there, but he does investigations, and he wants to go to October Mountain, which is out in Western Mass. And there's been a few sightings out there, so I'm going to go out there this summer. I was supposed to go out with Hiker Dave. Yes, today. Was it today? Yeah, it was today. I was supposed to be up with Hiker Dave, but it snowed up here, and we got like 4 inches or something. So that was called off. That was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the first part of this day, Elijah ran the store for me, and I stayed home, and I'm writing more on my next book, and I'm finishing up the chapter on that area we were at. And the chapter is going to end with our most recent trip there.
Oh, you added that in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd already finished it, but I thought, no, that with as much activity and such as we got this time around, I'm gonna end that particular chapter with that episode. That's the most activity as far as tree knocks and vocalizations I've ever encountered at one time.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder is it because it was more people, but then you were there with Mark and there was 3
No, I
people.
think it was. It might have had to do with we were camped further in than I've ever camped in before. Now, obviously, I've hiked in there before on many times, but as far as staying the night in that location. That's the first time I've camped that far in.
But
So
all of the vocalizations were in the first night, though.
no, there was one the second night.
Was there?
There's one whoop the second night. Yeah,
Oh.
over that ridge down toward the creek.
Oh yeah, and somebody pointed out a tree knock when we were walking along, and I didn't hear it. Somebody pointed it out on one of the videos that I posted,
Yeah.
and we totally missed it. But yeah, that's right. You heard the whoop, but I didn't hear it. That's right. But I don't think we
So
recorded.
the loud whoop that you got on recording that we didn't hear, that was from the first night.
Yeah, that was on the first. That was on the first SD card.
Okay.
The second
Yeah,
night.
that we must have been asleep or something, because that was so loud. We should have been able to hear that.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Well, and
But
that's what I had mentioned to Cornell about that. Like, even so, us right next to that creek where we were, you couldn't hear much of anything outside of the fire in the creek. It was just so loud. So I'm sure, that played a big factor. And also, like, how far away was the recorder from our camp for it to be picked up? What was the full range?
Yeah, it must have been as far away on the other side. That's what I was thinking. It was up on the
I'm
ridge.
guessing it was about a good 75 yards from camp, away from the creek. So that may well be why we didn't hear it, because of the sound of the creek below us.
And
But
also,
I still think we must have been asleep when that happened, because I would still think we might have heard that.
we would have heard it if we were awake. But I'm saying, like, if we're unconscious and plus all the other noise, I mean, it's definitely.
And then the second day was just, I think that we walked down to those bottoms. I think we were spotted. This is what plays at my own head. I think we were spotted, and then they cased us out all day, and then they came into camp that night. That's the way it plays in my head, because I mean, there wasn't a sound apart from those frogs. It was so quiet. And
Yeah, when we got down in those creek bottoms on the other side, that was eerily quiet down there.
Yeah. And so up on that ridge, like what Cornell's talking about, that first night that we were there, whenever we went walking down those trails and had the parabolic mic, if you think about it, up on that ridge would probably be about where you're talking about, 75 yards away from camp. That maybe we would have heard a whoop or something. And where Cornell set the mic, that the audio recorder, that would have been a lot closer to that ridge right there.
yeah.
Than to us. So
So the next time we go, we'll just go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, next time we go, we just go straight to the bottom campsite.
Yeah, furthest one. Yeah. If we can, it depends on, telling you, if it's really rainy on the top of that ridge, you'll bog down, as it's real rocky at the first campsite, and then kind of over the hill towards where we camped, it's rocky, but right there at the top, it's pretty muddy. And I've almost got stuck there before. Me and my friend Brian Baker were down there, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And before it bogged down much, I stuck a bunch of rocks under the wheel, and it got enough traction to get out. But I was thinking, man, it is one long walk out of here if we get stuck.
Yeah, especially if
Can
something's,
you imagine?
especially if you're having activity and stuff and you're trying to get out of there. God, I can't imagine trying to get out of there.
who was it that y'all were talking about that like got escorted out basically by one of them?
That was Carrie Arnold.
Yeah,
down
there
in-
we go. Yeah. I'd hate to be
But
in that
thing is,
situation.
Carrie actually had that thing walk right up to him.
Yeah.
I could imagine that. He thought it was a person until it got up closer and he saw it was a Bigfoot, and it was kind of making these like rude Bigfoot noises at him or something, the way he was talking. And I'm like, oh man, that really would be scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
At least he had the four-wheeler waiting for him, right?
Do what?
I said at least he had the four-wheeler waiting on him, right?
Yeah, but that was like
Yeah.
was half a mile away though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me that the scariest part of that was when he had to put his gun down to get on the four-wheeler, So But yeah, he was close enough to it. He could see his facial features and everything very, very clearly.
Well, he said the worst part of it was he was expecting this thing to be waiting on him on the walk out, that I was going to ambush him. And he said when he was walking out about 50 yards from his four-wheeler, he heard this loud tree break, like the thing had like a 6-inch thick.
Yeah.
And then he ran the rest of his way to the four-wheeler, and he had to do a 3-point turn with it to get out, and he was just waiting for the thing to pounce on him. That must have been scary as hell.
Yeah.
Last early summer, I camped down there by myself, and I was at that first campsite. I was there 2 nights. First night it was just normal. You could hear birds or the owls and everything carrying on. The second night it was very quiet, and that night I heard something break a branch outside of camp. That was well, I'm not going to say terrifying, but it was a little unnerving.
Was that the night you slept in the car, in the truck?
Yeah, I did that evening.
And that's no comfort either, because even when I was sleeping in the truck that night, I'm like waiting for this thing to come up to the window. So it's like, even if that happens,
the next morning when I got up, I walked up and you're sitting in the front seat, your sleeping bag's over your head. And I'm just thinking, well, it must have been cold in there. And you're like, oh no, I thought the thing was going to come look at me.
Yeah, well, I was waiting for it to come up to the window. I'm like, I'm just going to put the sleeping bag over my head and go to sleep. And hopefully it's morning when I wake up. After going all that way, when I get to that actual point where I'm that close, I just what's the word for it? Lose my nerve, You just don't know how you're going to act.
Yeah, it's different when you're there than when you're not, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I've been there so many times over the years. Sometimes you don't have the feeling there's anything out of the ordinary there, and I sleep just fine there by myself. But that one night I was there, and remember how quiet it was down in those bottoms when we were walking. It was like that. And just the night before, whippoorwill. You know what a whippoorwill is?
Yeah.
They call them night jars and stuff in different places, but those were carrying on, and owls, crickets, and then that second night, nothing. And but I could hear something moving in the woods outside of camp, and it broke a branch once. I could hear it pushing through the brush, and that was a pretty scary feeling right there.
Maybe the rules are you only get one night.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Yeah, the second night comes with an experience.
I wonder what the deer hunters in that big canvas tent, the first time, the big tarp tent. I mean, they must have stories to tell, or maybe they just don't notice.
Not necessarily. I mean, that areas like that, it gets deer season. There's a lot of people move in to hunt, so I kind of think that these creatures move to somewhere where there's not so much traffic of people during that time. Like for instance, Mark's place, they don't allow hunting on their place, and I think that's probably why he had so much activity during the November and such when he was there through early December. I think they'd pass through there because there's not hunters. I could be wrong, but that theory makes sense.
Speaking of Mark, I kind of feel like the theory of a man like a Leatherface in the woods is a little bit worse than a Bigfoot, so I'd be done about that time too.
Yeah.
You're talking about like equally terrifying, if not more.
Yeah, as you go and watch that video, they bring a picture up. I'd never seen that picture before.
I'll have to go back and watch it. I was on it while it was live, but I missed part of it because my internet was acting up. But I saw most of it, but I didn't see that.
Yeah. I think it's like the first third or something. I'm not sure. But those guys are coming today. The new owners are coming. And I guess he's not telling them there's no kids around, but I would at least maybe say, watch out for mountain lions in the woods. You know, someone in town will probably tell them.
Well, see, here's the deal, Cornell. You haven't been there, but there's a neighbor that lives in the woods, just right there where he would have that activity, and it's an older person, from what I understand, and they've
That's
never
right.
witnessed anything.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
it's almost like these beings, we'll call them that, were curious about the kids or something. And that's obviously what, concerned Mark about that, which it would me too,
Yeah. And what he was saying was that even if they didn't mean any harm and stuff, they might grow attached to the kids, watching them grow up after time, and then just decide that they were so attached one day to take one of them. That's horrific.
I mean, it would be, but I mean, it's like I've said before, I don't think that these things mean us harm. If they do, they're very bad at it, because if they were after us, they'd be taking people, and that's just not happening.
There'll be people missing everywhere.
Yeah, there are, but where's the evidence that it was Bigfoot that took
Yeah.
them? I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but if it does, it's very rare, a very rare thing. I think you've got there's a lot bigger chance of you running afoul of a human up to no good out there than there is a Sasquatch.
But even on that note, like, is it the missing 411 stories with David Paulides that like kids sometimes pop up in like these random locations that there's no possible way they could have gotten to, like over long distances and stuff. So, I mean, it's possible that they're, like taking them, or at least moving the kids, or putting them somewhere safe if they get lost.
Well, that's a
But
Troy.
David Paulides is never saying that it was a Bigfoot that took them. It's just they're
Right.
missing something where either a person is never found, or they pop up in a location that the little kids shouldn't have been able to walk that far. But now the incident that happened 2 or 3 years ago in I forget what state, North Carolina or somewhere. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, they're just
Hello?
saying that we have a 40-minute time limit for a group of 3 or more on
Okay.
Zoom. I
Well-
didn't really know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So anyway, the little kid, when they found him a few days later, and it was very cold, he said a big bear took care of him out in the woods for those 3 days or so. I mean, a bear would not have took care of the kid. So, I mean, that sounds like a friendly Bigfoot took care of that kid for a few days, is what it sounds like. So, I mean, how else would he have survived the freezing temperatures and such out there,
Or
So,
what Troy Hudson said, that sometimes he thinks that maybe they know the consequences of a kid going missing in their territory, and they take care of it and bring it back because they don't want helicopters and men with guns combing through the woods.
That's a pretty good
Yeah.
point. I mean,
If they're that smart.
or maybe, as I've kind of said before, I think these creatures are close enough to us and smart enough to know that we as a species are bad news to get close to,
Yeah.
and they do their best to stay away from us. I think that's a very feasible way to look at it as well. Because, we as a species have a very bad habit of destroying or exploiting everything we come in contact with, whether it be people or environment whatsoever. So I think these are creatures that are smart enough to know that, and they stay away from us as much as they can.
It's so funny because when I look at that picture on Mark's, the picture that Mark has, I'm like, that's like a human face. It looks like it has a mask on, but it's like human-like. I'm like, what the hell are these things? It looks nothing like a monkey or a gorilla. I mean,
Well, it's not a monkey.
right.
If this was no more than a ape that we thought was extinct but's not, or if it was a monkey, I mean, just look at any other species of ape in the world. Once we decide where they're at, figure out where they're at, we go in and we study them. these things we're not able to do that except in a limited capacity as me and other people have done. But it's in a very limited capacity, and they kind of call the shots on it. It's not like we can say, hey, this area right here is where Bigfoot is. Let's go study them this weekend. Like, was it Jane Goodall and some of those do with like chimpanzees or gorillas or whatever? They know where they stay and they go. These you can't. We got a pretty good idea where they pass through or where they've been seen, but there's no guarantee you're going to go there and see one. Actually, on the contrary.
Yeah, well, hopefully the next time you hear from me, I'll have that trail cam pic. But this guy says that on the trail cam pic, the thing is running past the trail cam in a running motion. Obviously, it's just a still. But we were talking about it in work, and the guys were like, they saw the Bigfoot thing on the back of my truck. I've got like a fridge magnet Bigfoot. And they're talking about like creatures that are very stealthy, and that there's big cats in New England, and that they won't. And then one of the guys like, yeah, Cornell thinks there's Bigfoot out there. And the other guy who's a hunter says, oh yeah, I have a photograph of Bigfoot. And the other guy's like, come on. And he's like, oh yeah. He says, I've got one on my trail cam. It was running past the trail cam. We got an image off it. And I'm like, where's the picture? He's like, he looked through his phone. It's not on his phone. He says, I think it's on one of my it's on my computer or on an SD card or something. And he texts his friend. I saw him text his friend asking to send it to him. So hopefully, I don't think he's bullshitting me. I think he's telling the truth. He's just like, he doesn't really care about it. So he's not in a rush to get back to me. So hopefully the next time you see something come up on my channel, it'll be that picture. I can't wait to see it. Can you imagine how many other people in the country have evidence like that just don't care, or don't know what it is?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the next week I should have the night footage on Elijah's camera up on my YouTube channel, hopefully. That first video, I just checked it earlier, and it's up nearly 10,000 views now.
Wow.
That's amazing. Just a little over, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And you linked my video to it, and it's my most popular video now. The episode 2 part.
Yeah.
And Elijah,
That's the most.
Did you get did you happen to get that face that you think look behind the tree?
I don't think so. Not on anything that I can see. It's just, I think that was at a point where I was either turning around to like pan around and get the shot behind us, or maybe I just clicked record to start recording a video. But I mean, it was like as soon as I kind of turned, I saw something. The camera kind of went to the side because I was kind of looking straight at it, But yeah, I don't know. There was definitely something weird going on that second night. Just as quiet as it was, there was nothing going on at all. And then we all kind of got that uneasy feeling, or just feeling like something weird was going on,
Yeah, well, I found out what was going on at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
3:30 in the morning.
Well, there's a couple of parts on there, and I'm editing. I'm trying to pull it. I mean, Elijah recorded, gosh, probably around an hour of a night footage there, and I've gone through it and picked out the parts that were relevant, and maybe somebody watching it with better skills than me can pick something out of the darkness that we've overlooked. When Elijah is startled by what he believes to be a face was peering around the tree at him, which is very feasible because that's from the direction we had heard the footsteps through the parabolic microphone. But he turns very quickly, and you can't really tell from that. But
well, it's usually our viewers.
Anyway.
It's usually our viewers that point stuff out. We miss stuff all the time.
Yeah,
seems
I mean,
to be
if
the
they
way.
see something, then great. If they can like point out where it is or anything like that, if it is there, then that'd be great. But also, if there's nothing there, let's not go chasing shadows or anything.
Yeah.
right, we want to see what's there, but not see things that aren't there.
Exactly. If I see one, I want it to be a legit thing. I don't want it to be.
We don't want to take pictures of trees and say, "Hey, look at the leaf monster there."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the plague of the Bigfoot community, and we vow not to do that. I mean, Christ. I mean,
Cornell, that last trip, we had more than one of those things around us out there. Because we had the rock clacking was coming from down in the creek, and the other tree knock was coming from up the ridge. So we at least had two of these things around us, and I think they were signaling each other.
We had one. It was just like one tree knock every time, though. That must be the signal.
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm over here.
It wasn't 2 or 3 knocks. It was one very loud tree knock, and then a little later we got another one. And then the rocks clacking against each other. That was a new one to me. And we were deep in that. We were far enough away from everything. That would not have been people out there doing that.
No.
You seeing how the terrain was, you go walking through that without a flashlight, you're going to fall flat on your face and break your neck on one of those rocks out there. You're just not going to do it.
But even so, where the tree knock and the clacking in the river is, like where you're talking about, that lines up exactly where that first night, whenever we were hearing the chatter, whenever we started to go up that ridge a little bit, and we started hearing the chatter up ahead of us, and then we heard that, or I heard that lower one back behind us towards the creek that I was telling y'all about, that it kept moving around almost. So I mean, it makes sense that there was more than one, because they sounded like different pitches.
Yeah, there were different pitches. Yeah, when we went up into the woods that night, they changed pitch. But people say it was a hog or a raccoon. I don't know. But
well, I'll tell you, it was certainly not a hog. It was not that. The one chatter, if it was a mammal, it was a smaller one. It wasn't a pig.
Right.
Now, last weekend, me and John Hodges walked up on a hog. We couldn't see it. It was in thick briars, but we had let out one of those real loud grunts, and I'm like going, "Oh, I hope it's not a mama with a bunch of piglets, or that could charge us," But yeah, that wasn't a pig that we heard.
When you listen to my audio, do you remember you said you heard like what sounded like execution style shooting? Was that at the very start of my audio? That clack, clack, clack? It sounded like a tree branch breaking in 3 stages. It's at the very start of my audio video. I think that's what you heard, and you thought it was
Did you catch that? Did you catch it on audio?
It's the very first thing you hear.
I didn't know that you caught that.
Yeah, I think it is that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go back and listen. But no, those rock clacks, that was very, persistent.
But
so like I said, that's the first time I've heard anything, knocking rocks together like that. It's always been wood on wood before.
Do you remember the 3 like really loud like bangs that we heard?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was really loud.
That's the first thing you hear on my audio. Those 3 cracks.
Because it was so quick and it was so loud. It sounded like a gunshot or something, just with how loud it was.
We're almost out of time here. Apparently, you've got to pay for more than 40 minutes. I didn't know. It's my first time using Zoom because Skype pisses me off. And someday I'm going to get like a little background and stuff in this. I'll see how it turns out. But it also has its own recording feature. So anyway, I'll be. I have. What have you got coming up, Dave? Just did those videos from John Hodges in our last expedition.
Yeah, I've got to put the. Yeah, I'm finishing up on the editing of our trip, and then I've got to go into what I recorded when me and John went, up into the mountains too. So, yeah, those things, and it's during the winter time when I'm not, going down there, I do a lot more sharing other people's accounts, and then when it gets spring and summer, it's more me going out into the the woods. So. That's what I'm looking forward to this, as soon as it quits raining, where I can get back into these places.
Oh, that must be the signal. So, yeah, check out Bigfoot and more on YouTube for Dave's content. And I hope you have a good night. Elijah's going to play some music tonight. So I hope you have fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely. It's going to be the first time that we're having live music in like a year or something like that. So I'm excited to go out and see all my friends.
All right, well, guys, well, thanks for coming
Oh,
on. And
Cornell, you're not live, are you?
yeah,
Your show's not live, is it?
no, it's not live now.
Oh, okay. John Hodges just sent me a text that says time, whatever that is. So I guess
Oh.
it's not in relation to it.
Yeah, well, people
So-
think that I am going to be live, so they keep asking what time I'm going to be on. But I'm like, no, it's never live. Not until I reach 1,000. And I will be on Kerry's show this Wednesday. So after that, I guess I'll be able to be live. I'm almost at 700 subscribers now, I think, or almost 800. I can't remember. It's going up so fast. It's great.
All right,
Every time-
Yeah.
All right,
I gotta
guys.
go ahead and get out of here. So I'll see y'all later.
All right, man.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks for
Dave.
having me on.
Talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.